Thank you for participating in the 10th Annual BlackStar Film Festival. We would like to thank our funders and individual donors, as well as our network of producing and community partners. This panel, Agents and Managers Roundtable, is co-presented by CAA. The runtime for this program is 60 minutes, including audience Q&A. Please leave your questions in the comments and we'll do our best to engage with them. Please follow us on all social media platforms at BlackStar Fest and use the hashtags BSFF21 and BlackStar10. Don't forget to fill out our audience evaluation and vote for your favorite films. We hope you have a wonderful time during the 2021 BlackStar Film Festival.
Welcome to the 10th Annual BlackStar Film Festival. I'm Sydney Alicia Rodriguez. I'm the Program Associate here at BlackStar, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to the moderator for this panel. Brandon Pankey is the founder of Artist Presented Experiences, APEX, a newly developed streaming network focused on artist-curated content. Concurrently, as Live Nation Urban's Vice President of Business Development and Operations, Brandon Pankey has been an integral part of a team that brings signature urban events and festivals in hip-hop, R&B, and gospel to the public. Thank you for joining us, Brandon.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, BlackStar, for having me as a moderator for an amazing, amazing panel. Also, special thanks to CAA for co-presenting the Agents and Managers Roundtable. So let's get right into it with our panelists. Talitha Watkins is president and head of Color Creative Management, a management and production company. Color Creative was founded by Issa Rae and Denise Davis with the mission of delivering women and people of color creators best-in-class representation to build career-defining brands through ownership, commercial success, artistic fulfillment, and visibility amongst the multicultural community and industry at large. Hello, Talitha.
Hi, everyone.
Adesuwa McCalla is... No, we're going to come back. Don't you worry about a thing. I got it. I got you. Adesuwa McCalla is principal of literary management firm Metamorphic Entertainment, identifies under-the-radar fresh voices that reflect different worlds and perspectives, with a literary talent for recognizing great material for her roster of clients. Hello, Adesuwa. Rukayat Giwa is a television scripted and books agent at leading entertainment and sports agency Creative CAA. Giwa is based in the Los Angeles office and represents many of the world's leading writers, directors, and authors. Hello, hello.
Hello.
And finally, Noel Tedla Mesfin is a WME agent, William Morris Endeavor, in production and motion picture literary, based out of the WME New York office. Prior to WME, Noel is a lawyer by training and also worked in feature film production as well as development at Paramount Studios and Scott Rudin Production. Noel, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thank you for being here. This is an awesome, awesome collection of panelists. And now, Talitha, I'm going to come back to you. Walk us through your journey. Tell us how you got to become the president and head of Color Creative Management and just where you're at today, because I work with you damn near daily at this point on a separate event. So I'm excited to hear your story.
Thank you. And thank you for BlackStar for having this really important discussion and for having us here. I've been in the business for 20 years, started in marketing, transitioned from television marketing to film marketing, became very obsessed with, everything we always talk about, getting more of our stories told and asking a lot of questions about why we can't. That took me to the agency, which is where, a lot of the business gets started. The studios will say they buy what the agency sells them. So I went to CAA. I would like to call it my MBA in entertainment. I did 4 years, learned a lot, met a lot of great people. And then the great opportunity came to partner with Issa and Denise on color creative management. As an agent at CA, I was definitely more of a managerial agent. So this was the natural transition. And I'm excited to work with you every day, Brandon.
Thank you. I didn't tell her to say that, I promise. Thanks, Talitha. Adesuwa, can we hear a little bit about your journey and your background as well?
Sure. I was started out born and raised in Manchester in the UK. I always knew I wanted to work in entertainment, to see and ITV there, and then made my way to the US through Howard University, and then worked in New York at MTV and Nick at Night, and then moved to LA to work for feature director Bill Duke, and then went over to the WB. And when I transitioned from that, I just was in a place where I love storytelling, love writers, and had a number of them in my circle that I felt like I could be a vessel of support to. And I'm always say that I'm not shy of crazy. I think sure this Black Brit can start her own, so I did, and now many years later, I get to be on a panel with other amazing folks here and talk about why I love what I do. So.
I love it. Thank you. I thought with that accent you were from Detroit, but I was way off on that. So
it happens all the time. Detroit or Cleveland, that's like the two I get mixed up for often. So I totally get it.
All the time. All the time. Oh,
all the time.
Thank you so much for being here. Rukayat, tell us your
Yes,
story,
so
please.
I've been at CA for 4 years, been an agent for 1 year. Talitha is one of the biggest reasons I am here as an agent as well too. I'd always been interested in media and entertainment growing up. I just wasn't sure what I was going to do first. I ended up doing Teach for America for 3 years in Metro Atlanta and teaching high school math. And so after going to my third year in the classroom, I realized I wanted to be more on like the entertainment side because I just see entertainment as another form of education, just more in a way that's more entertaining and not as spoon fed as being in the classroom. So I ended up going to USC's program, the Peter Stark Producing program, and then after that, I went to CA because I knew I wanted to be on the representative side and really like advocate and amplify the voices for people from historically marginalized groups.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Noel.
I've had a pretty crazy journey to this point, as many of us frequently have. I wanted to produce when I came up. I was actually obsessed with the Stark program, so it's cool that you're at USC, Rukayat. I'm a big fan. I graduated college during the financial crisis, so it was a very difficult time to try to break into the business. So I thought maybe going to law school would be a way in. It was fairly naive, no regrets. But after I finished that, I got a job working as an assistant to Scott Rudin, and kind of opened up from there. So yeah, and I've only been an agent for less than a year at this point, so it's all fairly new. But I've got a lot of perspective from different angles on this business, and I'm grateful to be here.
Grateful to have you. Grateful to have you. And one thing I just want to point out, thank you, BlackStar, for bringing together so many people of color, Black folk that are doing amazing things in this space. A lot about the artists, and we hear a lot about the athletes, understanding all of these positions behind the scenes that are really making it happen on a day-to-day basis is something that we all need to see and recognize. So really appreciative of everyone being here. I'm going to be less of a regular moderator and calling you out and pointing you out to answer a specific question. I really want to open this up for everybody. So this first question, anyone can jump in. For me, I'm a talent. I'm an artist. I'm all that. I have all the talent in the world, but I've been told that I need an agent or I need a manager. Where do I find an agent or a manager? I'm on stage or I'm in the recording booth. I'm doing what I need to do. How would I even find an Adesuwa or a Talitha? Like, where do I go? Now, I might call you out
Well,
if I have to.
Adesuwa, your name was called first, so I'm a I'm gonna toss it to you, sis.
I feel like double dutch. I'm like, who's gonna go? Clearly, I fail at double dutch because it took me way too long. So, I think that the journey to finding representation is all about kind of what the artist is doing and has done. I don't think there's any one route to it. I think if the artist is doing what you're saying and putting in the work. Whether that's, if they're trying to be a writer, they're entering script competitions, they're a director, and they enter, are they showcasing at BlackStar? Are they, even, coming and attending? And even if they don't have material, are they, showing up to places like this and events like this to foster relationships, right? Like, this is not just about finding representation, but if you are a director and come here, there's somebody who's an editor or somebody who works in sound that can help you get your vision. And then it's about putting in the work to share it. And as we, show up to festivals like this, competitions, we will comb through and look for, the talent. And I feel like it feels more mysterious than it is, really. I know it seems that way a lot of the times, because it's not just as simple as like everybody's name and picture is on a website somewhere. It's just like an easy click process. But I think if the artist is doing the work, that talent will rise to the top with hard work and perseverance. And we are here at these festivals looking for talent. So it's not like we're not looking. So I think the two find their way to each other, if that makes sense.
And then just to
It
go off
makes
of what that's what
Go ahead.
Oh, just to go off of that too, I think also too when you're sharing your work with other people, because I think at times too when you're a writer, not necessarily always like entering the different festivals, but also just sharing your work to your friends who have friends within the industry, or if you're already in the industry and like sharing it outside. I feel like I find people or see people who are so reticent to share their work, but you don't realize that a lot of us just want to share good work. It's like if I find someone new, I'm like, okay, hey Talitha, like check out this great script I've read, because it's like we want to be people who other people come to because we have great material. Like I found writers and authors off Twitter and hit them up and signed them from that. I know a lot of comedy folks find people from Instagram or TikTok. So I think a lot of times people are not as forthcoming and putting like, this is what they want to do out there. But truly, like people are really looking for things. Yes, it's at times it's hard to get discovered for some people for whatever reason or not. But I'm always like on Twitter, I'm always on the internet looking for new IP that I can control and I can take out, or just new writers and new directors and so forth and so on. So I think really putting your work out there, especially when we live in such an age where you can really, it's just a more democratized space and you can say, here's my script, it's on my website, please check it out.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump
Let
in
me
on
add.
that and networking across that, just what they both said, like network within your network. I think in these spaces, a lot of people will write down all of the people who they want to meet who are decision makers, but the person sitting next to you could also be that person that gets you closer to your rep or to your next job.
No, for sure. And Talitha, let me ask you specifically from a management perspective, right? I'm, for example, a DJ who wants to take my Club Quarantine and turn it into Club Quarantine Live, on sale currently. I'm in Atlanta on September 3rd. Get your tickets now. But if I'm a DJ and I need a manager, is it sort of the same process, sort of that same networking process as it is to find an agent?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very specific example. And I do have the pleasure of being able to work with someone who I've been friends with for a very long time, Derek D. Nice Jones. And we are working on this great concert series. So I'm excited about that. With that situation, I've always hired Derek. Like Rukayat will tell you, our very last event before the pandemic was an Image Awards party that I think I pulled together in 12 days. And I remember calling Derek and I was like, I have to have you at this. They gave me 12 days. It's got to be like killer. Like I cannot fail. And he was like, but I'm gonna be in Trinidad. Farrah, shout out to Trini. And he was like, I'll come back, T. I'll come back for you. I'll do it. And he rocked that party like nobody's business. Like every executive was like, who is this guy? And, it's one of those things where, again, network across, he's just my friend and someone who has always been there for me. So I think, he planted good seeds for a long time. I'm just the lucky beneficiary who gets to work with him. So I think for DJs, like, again, it's a thing, like build a brand for yourself. I think it's not too dissimilar from what Adesuwa and Rukayat have already said. Like use your platforms, IG Live obviously was D-Nice's platform. People use Twitch. People use, other different streaming platforms to showcase their talent. Create something, work within your community, create something. DJ B Hen is someone we worked with a lot at CA as well. He's created a dope block party that's become a calling card. So I just think, the more you lean more into your passion and what you love and lean on your community, you'll see the wins eventually.
No, for sure. And Noel, I have a question specific for you. I mean, you're an attorney by trade. You're making the transition over to becoming an agent, and you've been an agent for less than a year. Have you found the transition? Do you find it difficult to find clients because you're newer in the space, or is it easier because you're newer and maybe you're a fresh approach versus others that clients may know?
Well, I guess in full disclosure, I never actually practiced as an attorney. So, this is the first time that the skill set has actually kind of come into play with respect to deals, et cetera. As for finding talent, I mean, I started in the middle of the pandemic. So, it's been an interesting adjustment to say the least, both kind of figuring out the internal lay of the land as well as kind of externally. That being said, I've been in this business for a long time, and there are a lot of filmmakers that have been on my radar for a long time. So it's kind of this balance between wanting to make sure that you're staying on top of up and comers and people that may be emerging, which is why events like this are so wonderful. And then more established filmmakers that I would like to work with later on down the road. So I would like to add something to what we were talking about before. Is just to echo what everybody else was saying, community is everything. I think sometimes we get caught up thinking that there might be rules to this in terms of getting an agent or trying to get, a film made, or even trying to make it on the business side of this industry, as most of us are in at the moment. So I would just say there are rules and there aren't rules. People have tracks, people have paths that they refer to, whether that be the mailroom path, whether that be any number of things. But it really could go any number of different directions. And I would encourage people to continue to build community, because that's everything. When you have peers that are on your level that all get traction together, these things tend to come together in terms of getting an agent, in terms of trying to get financing for a film. I know that much of it feels extremely daunting if you don't have the exposure, but I think our industry frequently likes that to be the case, to be a little bit amorphous and not really straightforward in terms of how things work. It gives power to the people in the castle. So I just wanted to highlight and underline that. But yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right. So this is my first year attending BlackStar. I'm excited as a talent. I should have made it out the previous 9 years, but I made it out now. I've got to hear this panel. I've met you, Rukayat. You're signed me. You're my agent. I'm excited. What's next? What is it that an agent actually does for a creative? And again, this may seem like a simple question, but I feel like a lot of people think they know because they watch Entourage or watch some other TV shows, but don't really know the day-to-day behind what it is or what it takes to be an agent.
Yeah, I think like the roles are evolving, so it might look the same as what Talitha does, because Talitha and I do work together. But what I've traditionally learned and like heard growing up or coming up is that an agent is the one who like finds the clients their jobs on a day-to-day basis. So it's like, okay, getting a client, whether they've never staffed before on TV, so they're looking to get their first staff writer credit, or they've staffed before and they're looking for a new switch in their career. It's just like, okay, what are you looking to achieve, and how can we get you in positions with other executives around town or other creatives at the agency that can help you get to that next level? And that could look like developing something and creating your own next show, or that could be like, okay, what are your favorite TV shows on TV? Are those staffing? Like, can we get you on those shows? So it's really just playing, what do you want to do next? And we also like look at it also like over the term of your career. I think a lot of times too, like when you're starting out, you want to take the first job that offers you, because you need money on the table, and also you need a credit on your list, so you can say like, I've done the work, I can do the next thing. But right now where I'm with some of my clients, it's like, okay, you've had your first job, your second job, but now we can actually be more selective with those next few jobs, because people know that your first few ones were you just trying to break in, but now like what is best for your voice and what's best for what you want to do next. So it's really just working hand in hand with whether they have a manager, an attorney, or whoever it may be on their side. What is the best thing for your career? Where is your voice best suited in it? And what can take you to actually where you want to go, whether that's in the next 5 years or the next 10 years. So it's really just making those connections for myself around town with other managers, other agents within my group, and other executives, and saying, hey, I have this amazing client that you need to read, you need to watch, and you need on your show.
Anyone else? I mean, that's how great the answer was. No one else has
Yeah,
anything
no,
to say
I mean,
to that.
I'll just add to that and shine a little bit on Rukayat too, because I do get to work with her, and just like, when you get to work with someone like her who is known in the industry to be a reader in a way that, she's picking incredible talent. You just, when you receive that email to say like, you have to take a look at this, you stop and you read that, or it becomes your priority to read. So I think, choosing your agent by that kind of reputation is very smart. And I think for an emerging person, you may not know that, but I think it's important to ask that question when you're looking for an agent sometimes too. I think people feel like, oh my gosh, it's so daunting. I just got to go with the first person who likes me. But it really is matchmaking and making sure that how you operate and your delivery of material aligns with how that person operates and how they're seen in the industry. So I think it's a two-way dialogue. And as a manager who gets a chance to work with great agents now, it's our job to make sure that they have the materials ready for sale, right? So I imagine like an agent is taking that ticker tape on the NASDAQ, right? And when that bell rings, they have to have it. It has to be ready to sell, right? So it's our job to get it ready, because a lot of people will walk up and say, I have this great screenplay, but no one's read it. No one's given a note. They've never done a table read, so it's like doing that groundwork before you get to the point where Rukayat's going to go around town and tell everyone that it's the thing that they should buy if they don't want to look crazy.
Got it. And I'm stealing that.
And I think I would just add to that by saying holistically, also, I think it's about talking. Sometimes I think, emerging writers will write to what they may think what the trend is and not necessarily what they want to do. So sometimes you'll read a sample and it's fantastic. And it could be, a great genre sample. And they're like, oh yeah, because, I'm looking and genre is really big right now. But when you start to talk to them and you like, well, what is the career you want? And they're like, well, I really want to be, like a Shonda. And you're like, okay, so you want to do soapy, fun, but you wrote the genre piece. And they're like, oh yeah, because genre is in. So I wrote this. So it's about really sitting and being like, okay, holistically, who do you want to, what is the career you want? And then what are the dream shows you want? And how can we build you to that and getting the material, the right material as well. So just add to that.
No, for sure. For sure. So let me flip it, because I hear a lot of creatives, not a lot, but some that say, well, my agent didn't do anything for me. Instead of, I feel like there are things that creatives could do outside of writing the book or, making the film or, recording the song that could help them in their career as well. And talk to me about what creatives can do on their end, even after having an agent or having a manager, to help, keep their career going in a positive direction.
I think
Noel.
what Noel said earlier about building your community, that never stops. It's not like you build your community to get into the business and then you just stop building. Like you're constantly, expanding and building your community. That's never going to stop. So that's part of like, yes, it's what's on the page or what's on the screen, or but the building of their own community is a part of that as well.
And I think also too, just things that I feel like I've seen some writers or director, whatever it is, overlook is being someone that people want to work with a lot, especially with the TV space, especially in the writing in the TV space. You are in these rooms for 10 hours a day. It could be for 10 weeks, 20 weeks, 25 weeks. And a lot of the times I think that people forget that, like, yes, people can get by on talent and be really horrible people and still get ahead in their careers. But by and large, like if you don't come off as someone that people actually want to work with and spend their time with, it does not matter how talented you are, it's not going to work out. At least it isn't for me and the kind of roster that I want to build. Like if like you have a quote unquote bad reputation around town, or you have like tweets that are very disparaging to like other creatives and other people's work, and you just like tweet and make it seem like it has to like happen for you immediately, people see that and people talk about like, no, what is that person really like? Like, would I want to spend my time with them? And I think a lot of times people underestimate that and say like, I should be getting this, I should be doing that. But it's just like, are you someone people want to be around? So I think that a lot of people don't really underestimate that. And then also like having the passion for the job. A lot of times, sometimes some clients will go in rooms, I think, not realizing that you also have to like play a part and say like, I actually want this job, I'm passionate about this project, I'm passionate about these ideas. I think yes, your material has gotten you in the door, people, your agent or your manager or your attorney, whoever represents you, has gotten you in the door for whatever reason, but it's just like at the end of the day, you have to be someone people want to be around and someone people like, oh, they have a good character, or I actually genuinely like working with them. So I think that can also be what the client can be doing, because if they're not, it doesn't matter how hard Talitha and I or Adesuwa and I or Noel and I are working for them. If people are like, no, I don't want to work with them, then there's only so much we can do and so much quote unquote selling we can do.
100%.
I agree.
That's a word right there.
90% of this
100%.
industry are relationships. Relationships will take you, break you, make you in this industry, and they are so valuable. That we might as well end the panel on that one, because that's. But go ahead, Talitha. I see you. I think you want to say something.
I was gonna say, I hear a lot of people because I came in such a back door into the representation space. I always leave room for emerging people who are, they make the mistake of bringing the script to the panel and trying to hand it to someone, and I always make time for those people because each one teach one, right? So like I hear a lot of people saying like things about oh, well, all they did was set me meetings. Well, it's your job to show up in that meeting, So it's like that's really the matchmaking part is really it. It's they're not, there's a team around you, but you got to go in and that person has to show up. And I think a lot of people I've heard recently, even to some of the like more successful people say like, well, I didn't know that I could ask my agent that, or I didn't know I could ask about like what were the previous projects they sold, or I didn't know, and I just think that there's that fear, right? Because of the murkiness in the castle, like you were talking about, Noel, like that fear of like, well, I don't want to get dropped if I keep asking too many questions, or if I dig in a little bit. Like once you have a meeting set from your agent or your manager, that's the moment to ask all the questions, because it will nothing feels better than preparing your client to go in and kill it.
This is the question that y'all are preaching on. I'm not mad at it at all. Not mad. So let me go to the next question. So as you're building up, your respective rosters, a lot of personalities, a lot of different individuals that you're working with, or companies. How do you balance all of these personalities, all of these people? Because I know personally, I know for a fact, some are going to feel like they're being slighted, and some are going to feel like they should be treated at a higher echelon because maybe they made you more money or made your firm more money in a given year. How do you balance your roster of clients?
No one wants to answer that question.
No, I see.
I mean, are you?
I would.
I think it's. I mean, if I think you have autonomy to in meetings when you're meeting with folks to try and that's what it's matchmaking, but it's not just about the client picking the right representation. I think we are also meeting you to ascertain the type of personality, the type of person you're going to what Talitha said, how the kid said how you're going to show up in meetings, how you're going. So it's a two-way street. It's not just yes, the client makes a decision on who they want to represent, but we should be also in there, figuring out what the type of personality is and does that work for you and the way you work. I don't think it's a two-way street there. So I think if you as most of us are, are not we're very clear about who we are and how we work, and we're people. So we're generally what the type of rooms and who you're with and what you're getting into. So a lot of times that shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but people do every now and again. They'll surprise you. But yes, I think it's a two-way street there.
I
I'd
think it's
add to
important to
that that, oh, sorry, go ahead, no.
I would just say that it's very much like people should remember that this is a service industry, at least as far as agents and managers, right? So people get excited or really want to get an agent, but you can fire your agent, you can fire your manager. We work at the behest of the client. So I think folks realize pretty quickly as they get deeper in this business that people are in it for different reasons, have vastly differing motivations. Some people want the paper, some people want the fame, some people want to tell amazing stories, and I think authenticity is important, right? Like a lot of relationships in this business tend to lean towards the transactional. And yeah, there's business to be done, but the hope is, at least between the agent or the manager and the client, that there's a real relationship there. You don't have to be the best of friends, but there at least has to be some type of simpatico as far as like where you're at and where you're trying to go. And so that's what I have to say on that part of it. I mean, the roster could change, right? Like somebody could leave, somebody could not be happy, anything. But as long as you kind of know that you did what you had to do to push that person forward, then that's what you have to hang your hat on ultimately.
Talitha, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just will add to that. I mean, I completely agree, and I think the distinction is clear too between a manager and an agent. And a manager was probably going to be that person that you're spending more of your time with, in working through kind of like what that is. So I can understand that feeling of like, oh, you don't have that time for me. But we are all in this call very fairly mission oriented. So like, I think if we bring someone on, it is, we are bought in, invested in seeing their success. So I guess it just comes down to honesty and being able to say like, I feel like I need more of your time. And sometimes changes can be made to easily address that, whether it's like setting a regular schedule meeting or preparing some kind of status update or what have you. So sometimes it's less about having more time and more just about clarity. So I think it all comes down to a communication and clear communication.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this next question, I need everyone to answer. And I'm actually going to pull out my pen because I need notes on this one personally. We are in an industry that back in the day, I used to say that I was on call like a doctor without the salary. It is 24/7. How much our clients need us, how many people need us all the time. We get emails at 2 a.m., we get emails at 2 p.m. How do you balance your personal life with the work that you do on a day-to-day basis? And I need an answer from everyone. I might answer this one. I don't have the answer actually. So I'm going to start with Talitha, and then we're going to go through.
It is very intentional. So
Mm,
I, for one, am incredibly grateful that the society at large is embracing rest, is embracing, normalizing motherhood in the workplace. I'm a mom of a 10-year-old. There are a lot of demands on my time to, be her mom and co-parent. I'm just really clear with whoever I work with. I think being a
mm,
mom makes me a better everything. So I think being able to bring that to the table helps me to be a better manager for the people I work with. I'm compassionate. I'm very nurturing because of all of that. So, you can't want the compassion and nurturing, but not respect my time, with my family. So I think I just really am clear about like, and I'm clear with my team too. Like, I want people to stop working at 7. I mean, everyone has their weekend read, and we all do that. But hopefully, we're not reading things that we feel we're labored to read. We're reading with a dream in mind, and we're reading with I like to put on my sparkle glasses when I read and be like, okay, let me find the shine in this. And if I don't find it by page 30, I'm putting it down. That's my work-life balance. So,
Right.
and take time for yourself. Like I get up early. I meditate. I do yoga. I do things in the morning that I know if I tried to program later, it probably won't happen because of the mercurial nature of, working with different kinds of clients. So I carve out that time for myself. So that's what I do. It always works if you work it. And I think the one thing, like, I got a piece of advice from a great agent at CA once, and he's like, I had this client that will call me every morning, catch me completely off guard. It was like 6 a.m. phone call. And he said he just started to wake up at 5:30 and call him first. And once he got to the client before the client got to him, yeah, they established a cadence, but at least he wasn't being caught off guard. So I think when people are showing you what they need, I think you can show up for their needs in a different way.
Adesuwa?
I think intention is the key word. Here, I'm a night owl, so a lot of my best ideas. So clients actually get, like, I've read a script and then sort of kind of given a note, but not really, or I feel like I've not given it with the clarity that I would like. And a lot of times I get my ahas at late. So mornings are really a struggle for me. So they're used to actually getting emails from me at all kinds of random hours. I've tried to stop that to create better balance. I ran away last December to Barbados, and it's definitely helped with the balance of everything, because it's allowed me an opportunity to just be in a different energy, and as mercurial and up and down and swings, and I can just step out, and that's been a really great balance. And clients have been great about accumulating to that. So yeah, so I think it's intention. I think that's really, 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 really the key to how to make that work. No matter what your, motherhood, not motherhood, living with parents, big family, small family, all my family's in the UK. So it also requires me, like, a certain time. I can only talk to them. If not, with a time difference, I can't. So how do I factor that in? And, if need be. So yeah, it's all a matter of intention.
And Noel and Rukayat, you don't have to answer because I see audience questions now. But if you want to, cool. I would say, and I know I'm the moderator, I shouldn't be answering questions. But for me, I heard Talitha say work-life balance, and the one thing I've tried to change is even that phrase, because it puts work on the same level as life, and work is a part of our life. So it's just our life balance. You know what I'm saying? And we need to not separate it, because then it just treats it like it's this great behemoth, and it really shouldn't be in the
Yeah,
grand scheme.
even going off what you said, I always find, this is not to you, but just like I feel like a lot of people ask this question. I find the question in and of itself strange, because I don't know what the optimal answer that people are looking for in terms of saying, yes, Rukayat does have a work-life balance. I think for me, just like these past 15 months have shown me, it's just like I need to say yes to the things that actually I want to say yes to, that I feel fully passionate about, because then I will truly be engaged and truly want to do it day in and day out, and less of the things that don't serve me. And I know that I can't bring my full passion in. It's just like, I think it's just like finding someone you want to work with. You want people to be passionate about you. And on the same end, I want to be passionate about the stuff I'm doing, so that I can like maybe convince myself that I love it. Because even if I wasn't in the industry, I would be watching TV all day. I would be reading books all night. So I don't know like what the optimal answer people are looking for when they ask about work-life balance. But I think it's just moving towards a space where you are really engaging in stuff that you actually want to do, and saying no to the things that you know will bring you headaches later on in life.
For sure. And Noel, we're actually we have a lot of workers, a lot of people that work hard in the audience. They want everyone to answer this question. So Noel, if you can answer it, please.
It's pronounced Noel, but you guys haven't met me before, so it's all good.
I heard Noel. I said Noel at first. I thought I had it, and I heard Noel.
That's okay.
My bad.
That's okay. It's totally all good. You
I
know,
think I
I
messed you
think
up. Sorry.
no, it's totally all good.
That UK
I
pronunciation.
yes, and I listen. I'm a fan of Noel Coward. I just don't quite think it's quite as lyrical, shall we say? I don't know. I don't have a real answer to that question, to be honest. I subscribe to this notion of rest as a radical act, particularly in the face of a white supremacist structure. I think it's important that we don't lose ourselves in this work. But beyond that, I'm not above ghosting, frankly. Like, if I need to like step off for a little bit and I have something that's important, I'm gonna be real. Like, it doesn't really matter who it is, unless you're my mama. Like, sometimes things have to be put to the side, and I think it's important that we don't get so caught up in the work that that it becomes life, as you mentioned. So I don't have a really good answer to that question. I'm still kind of figuring it out as I go.
No doubt.
We
No
could
doubt.
have
But
a
we
whole
have,
nother panel on that.
listen, we need it. We need it. That's something no, honestly, it's something that, when we're on other panels and other discussions, it never gets brought up. Like, how do you, like, what's your balance? What is your life like outside of this? Because we can't even do the work if we're not good outside of all of it. You know what I mean? And I just feel like
Sure,
we don't get enough
sure.
recognition toward it.
Yeah,
Would
and
you
I
say,
think
Noel?
our industry kind of I was just going to say our industry and in particular agencies are really all about kind of like grind, grind, grind. All the language is this is like hyper masculine, hyper violent language. This person is a crusher. They destroyed this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And none of that lingo really leaves room for the self or for rest. And so I find myself pushing back against that a little bit. Maybe that will ultimately be to my detriment. I think it's a thesis that needs to be tested, but that being said, this is not the end all be all to anything. And I think, we would do well to note that. I think we don't work in an industry where people, or we work in an industry where people unfortunately take themselves a little bit too seriously. And sometimes it's important to step away from all of that. But, I also understand that that can be a little bit of a controversial statement. So take it with whatever grains of salt you need to.
I hear you. I hear you on that, man. Again, I think Talitha said it. We'll have a separate panel, co-presented by CAA at a later point. So let's get into some of the questions from the audience. I want to make sure we get to some of them at least. First question is, can more experimental or documentary-oriented directors or cinematographers get repped, or is it just for fiction-oriented artists?
Yeah, I would say 100%. I mean, we just signed 2 doc directors recently, and I think, it's just really about what's their mission, right? Because if they want to um tell really great documentary stories and they want to be the best at that, then I think that would be a great challenge for anyone to who's similarly interested. But like, if they want to make a lot of money, then that needs to be a conversation, because that's not the space where, you'll make a lot of money fast. I think it's just a conversation about, what your goals are. To Adesuwa's point, like, what's the intent behind, us partnering for the purpose of creating commerce around your work?
Oh, thank you
I'd
for
say
that
on my
too.
end, I rep cinematographers and below the line folks as well as writers and directors in motion picture lit. But on the below the line side, in general, our business wants to put people in lanes, right? This person does this kind of genre. This person does this. This person shoots this kind of thing. Obviously, it's different when you're talking about, below the line versus above the line. But across the board, I think, say you're a cinematographer that is primarily used to shooting documentaries, it can be a hard road to hoe to get into features. But I think, like anything else, you start where you're at. So if you're, a cinematographer that's done a bunch of documentaries and you want to get into features, hook up with one of your friends in your community. The keyword being community, and make whatever you can. There are movies that are making it to festivals the last few years that are shot on iPhones, frankly. So at least in terms of the barrier to entry, in terms of the technology, they've fallen in a major way, and in terms of the democratization of audiences and being able to kind of really get your work out there. Obviously, the other side of that is like there's so much out there. How do you even know? That becomes like a marketing conversation. But I think you start where you're at. I really do believe that.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is, any tips on what to say when you reach out to an agent or how to pitch your work to an agent? I feel like we sort of addressed this before, but if anyone had any further elaboration on this.
I would say on mine, if we're going to keep it like a buck, if we're going to keep it a buck here, for which we should, I think, given that we're talking to our people. At least in my experience, a lot of agents don't like to get in unsolicited submissions. So that's where the community comes into play, right? Like if somebody in your community is rep, then they can then go to their agent and be like, I really think you should take a look at this person or take a look at some of this work, and that's the best way to get our attention. The unsolicited emails, I just think that they work less often. There's so much information coming at us at once on a regular basis that a random artist reaching out that we have no connection to can be difficult to connect with, or you might not even have the bandwidth to get into the work. So it's not even like like we're trying to stunt on them, but the fact of the matter is the sheer volume of information and people we're dealing with on a daily basis makes it difficult to take the look that it deserves, I guess is what I'm saying. And that's just speaking frankly on mine.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And also,
And
I
I
would
feel
add
like
to that by saying that also it's not just people who, if someone's repped, but even, whether it's, alumni, relationships, Greek organ, D9 organ, whatever, there are lots of other ways, and it has to be find somebody repped by that same person. There's a lot of times that those, I get people from, outside of that book who I trust. So I think it's always about, if it's coming from a trusted source, whether it's somebody you already rep or somebody that you have a good relationship with, that's going to always help kind of, rise up to the attention.
Rukayat, did you want to add anything to that?
it was what Adesuwa said as well too. Like I'll read stuff
Perfect.
from people who recommended me from high school, as long as it's someone is saying like I co-signed this person, regardless of whether they're in the industry or not.
Got it. So I'm assuming, so our next question was, I wrote a book now, what is my next step? I feel like we answered that for the second time. So I'm going to skip that question for a minute because that was just answered. The next question is for writers. Is it important to have a complete finished script when trying to seek representation, or will reps assist with helping you get it further developed?
Well, actually, can I answer that book question? Because books actually work differently than film and TV scripts. In the books
Please.
industry, people actually traffic in unsolicited submissions, especially like they actually have full forms. They tell you on their website what they're actually looking for and say, I want genre pieces or I want YA pieces. So for literary agents, they actually actively read any single book that comes in and actually look at them for submission. On the TV and film side, it's way different. So I think on the book side, it's just truly just getting plugged into book Twitter, because a lot of these literary agents in New York are very big on Twitter, because a lot of people have just written manuscripts that they want people to see. And so you just start seeing like their manuscript wish list and seeing what they actually want. And you can actually just submit 10, 15 pages to them and they'll get back to you in a few months.
Thank you. Did anyone want to elaborate on this last question?
Yeah, don't send an unfinished script.
Yes. Don't do it.
Use your community.
Honestly, yeah. How do you judge somebody's work if it's unfinished? Right. So, I don't know if you can, you can send 3 acts of a TV show. I don't know if you know structure, because I need to have, to read it in its entirety to ascertain that, so it's just, it just goes down to that bottom line. I can't truly.
Yeah, take a class, find a writer's room, like finish your script.
Yeah. No, it goes back, I think, to an earlier question. Just make sure you're doing the work as well before expecting an agent or representation to do the work for you. So finish the script, as everyone already said. The next question. When looking for clients, what is the priority criteria? Existing portfolio, marketability or profit, or the potential of the particular client?
I think it
I
differs.
don't think it's one over the other. I think approaching it as I know for me, I'm not gonna speak for Talitha, but I think it's a holistic approach. Like, read the material first. You might get a bio with it. Maybe there's been some, success. You read the material, you fall in love with what's on the page, and then you sit down with that person and they talk about, who they are, what their story is, how they got here. Everybody, like Noel said, this is not an industry where it's not med school. You don't just go, graduate, do a residency, and then come. So, people come to writing all different ways. I always am fascinated by the stories. Some people are, former doctors and lawyers who went to writing. Some people, fled war-torn countries and always wanted to write, and some people went the straight traditional route or traditional-ish, as we've just said. There's no real traditional, but writer's assistant, and kind of did that way. And so I think the story, the journey of the writer is equally as so to me, and particularly when we talk about TV and being in a room and what you're drawing from, that's not just on the page, but being in the room and to be really collaborative. I think it's, people who have lived lives. That's marketable unto itself. So
Okay. Let me ask another question. Are there ever scenarios where creatives should represent themselves for their career?
I mean, I would say people can be self-managed if they are, incredibly diligent and have a strong community around them. But I think that the notion of having someone who has perspective into what's happening in the industry, that's what you're looking for. But also just someone who has another perspective that you respect, someone, to Adesuwa's point, who's lived a life that see something in. There's commonality there. You see the world through similar prisms and what have you.
Mhm.
But trying to jump into the marketplace by yourself, having been an agent, whoo, there's so much information out there that you will never know without plugging into an agency. So it just, I think it's beneficial to get your stuff ready to sell. But there are places where you can do self distribution and like do deals directly with distributors if you want to go the route. And I'm sure, Noel, you probably represent lots of people who have, you know, been able to deliver a project all the way ready for a pipeline. And I think that's a smart route too. Like, you know, we love Master P. Like, sell it out your trunk if you can. But trying to plug into the industry or plug into the buying spectrum, it's like rolling up. Like, I love the NASDAQ example because you're not gonna roll up on Wall Street and be like, can you take my company public? Like, that's the same thing.
Right. Cool. All right. Because we're close to the end, I wanted to ask one other question. And really it's just, a question for the future agents, the future. What are the career steps rather, or the path that, the future Rukayats and Talithas and Adesuwas and Noels can take to becoming, agents or managers in their careers? And this is a question for everybody. So if you're further away.
When I was at CA, I oversaw the training program for a while, and we during that time it was like a great shift in what we were hoping that the future of our training program would be. And after leaving, they made a complete shift, and I'm very excited to see what comes from this first and second class that are coming through. So I would say, I think it's like with any job, you got to do the research, you got to know who the players are, and then, study their stories because there are different ways in. I think it's what Adesuwa said, like use your network, plug into alumni network. That's been a large part of success for a lot of the people who came through the training program. It's like I cold called this agent because we went to the same, college, and people want to give people a shot because of that commonality. So, especially if you're a person of color or woman or someone who's like outside of the industry, please use those resources because it works so well for the other, and the majority will continue to bring in those ideas. So, we've got to nurture these job opportunities for the next generation of people of color because it's fun. Like this business can be a lot of fun, and you can build a great community, and you feel the reward of seeing your projects being received by audiences. So it's very, very hard work, but if you have the aptitude for supporting creators or for being a creator, I would just say, going back to Noel's word, just use your community.
Yeah. And on my end, I would say, like, it's a small business. Everyone knows everyone, and you know, again, I hate to say it again, but you got to start where you are. Maybe you'll have alumni connections, maybe not, but um, one of the biggest things I could say is take every meeting. It doesn't matter if you're a writer and the alumni from your school happens to be a music supervisor. You really just don't know who knows who. It might your break might not come off the alumni connection. It might be because you had a 15-minute general with that alumni. They liked you and then put you in touch with two people that have nothing to do with your school, right? So, and then those two people could put you in touch with more people. There's a network effect that actually happens. And I think when you come at it in a genuine way, in a non-transactional way, when you're just sitting there, this is a thing. In New York, it can be hard to get the 15 minutes. You can frequently get 15 minutes in LA. Folks will give you that 15 minutes, but it's what you do with that 15 minutes. So if you sit in that room and you wow them, then you might get 3 more contacts off of that. But if you don't do your homework and you don't, when I would be obsessive about research. I mean, if the person did a profile 15 years ago, I would like try to incorporate a quote and like mirror neurons. I was like OCD about it at the time because I just needed to weigh in. However, by any means necessary, I was trying to get it right. So part of it is a hunger thing, and people can feel that when they meet you. And if you just take all the meetings, whatever you can swing, you have no idea what could come. I mean, my job right now as an agent is a direct relationship of a relationship I made, almost 10 years ago, when I had zero intentions of going into the agency space. So you just don't know how things are going to come together, and I just want.
And I'll just add to that two things. I think one, you know, just being a consumer, like, read, have a point of view, watch TV, have a point of view. It's nothing to get in and sit there and say, like, what are your, a lot of these 15 minutes are like, what are you watching? What do you love? Like having just generating your point of view, I think is really important. I think there's also, I think we've said this in multiple different ways, but there's no one way and no one path. I think you should never think it's too late. Noel went to law school and then made the transition, based off a relationship 10 years ago. So, it's not a straight path. I think people can make that transition at any time as long as they are, have, like I said, have a creative point of view, do the work, foster their relationships. It can happen.
Rukayat?
No, literally what everyone said. And I think it's sometimes, especially me, because I came up as an assistant CA, you get so caught up in doing the work that you're on the desk for. But I think it's just like actually reading and talking to people. I would get so surprised when I would come back after the weekend and the other assistants hadn't read stuff. And I realized, oh, this is easy. All I'm doing is reading at home and telling people like, hey, I read this, like this is good. So I think it's just like seeing what your boss is doing, but obviously not overstepping the bounds, but reading and literally what Adesuwa said, have a point of view. It could be wrong or people may not agree, but at least they're like, okay, that's what Rukayat thought. Okay, I don't agree, but she had a point of view and something to say about something.
Got it. So, okay, so there's
just
one last.
Like, I know a lot of people read this book. I didn't read this book and come into the agency, but I know a lot of people respect the fact if people read the book, The Mailroom, right? I'm just throwing it out there because as, I came up, in DC, at Temple University. I never heard of that book. But I'm also someone who did not aspire to an entertainment career. So I think that's the thing that Noel's talking about, and just like being obsessive about your research. Like a lot of people, when a lot of agents, that will be a checkbox for them. Oh, did you read The Mailroom or Powerhouse or whatever those books are? Michael Ovitz
All
book.
right,
Yeah.
which is a great book. Which is a great book. Okay, last question. 60 seconds for Talitha specifically. I noticed many of you on the panel have recently transitioned, in your careers. Kudos to you all. Specifically, Talitha, was it difficult from serving as an agent for CAA to president of a company? What do you think helped you to prepare for this role and secure the role? 60 seconds.
Ooh, I got a really great piece of advice from a woman named Michelle Thornton Gee, who now runs Ebony Magazine. Shout out to my sister Michelle. She told me when I was working at Universal Pictures, be entrepreneurial. And I've always been entrepreneurial since then at CAA. Rukayat can attest to this. I was always building something, coming up with something, trying to build consensus for something. So I built a full-on model with a few friends at CAA for a Black-owned management company. So when it came time to have these conversations with Issa about, I was really just advising her on people who I thought would invest in it because I'd done some, research on this. And the conversation naturally became, oh, you know what? I think you're knowledgeable about this and you have a really great vision for it. You should do this with me. So, I planted those seeds early with just being entrepreneurial. So, yeah, it's really, really hard. It's like flying a plane that goes really fast and you're still building it. So you got to really love it.
I love that. I love that. And a great way to end this amazing panel. We could have went on for another hour, but we all got things to do. Thank you so much for being here as a part of the BlackStar Film Festival Agents and Managers Roundtable. Thank you, Talitha Watkins, Adesuwa McCalla, Noel, Tedla Mesfin, and Rukayat Giwa. Amazing, amazing, amazing panel. I've been your moderator, Brandon Pankey. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of the festival.